automatically to Dropbox, which like,
Live
okay,
stream
fine, I'll get a
is on.
Dropbox. I was like, okay, fine, I'll get a Dropbox. But then I got a Dropbox, used it perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden, now it's only doing YouTube live streaming, which they already had. But then I had to figure out how to do that. And basically, we had an interview coming up, so it's about like a quarter till midnight, the night before the interview, and I go to sign up for it. I go to like activate my YouTube streaming, and they put you on a 24-hour to the minute, like a 24-hour delay, so you don't just like randomly start streaming. I don't know, whatever reason. I guess so you don't like flip out and stream a mass shooting or something, which I literally think that's why they do it. But and for they try to see if you are, I don't know, legit not band evading or something probably, but
Probably.
whatever reason that is, I couldn't do it for that interview, and that like screwed us.
Yeah.
We might have just went on Skype, I think, that time, but was that Gary Chartier? I don't know. It was somebody.
Sometimes technology is just fucking retarded.
Yeah. Well, that one got me because. Okay, well, we're streaming.
Yeah, you're
so
recording
nobody's
right
gonna be
now.
watching. If anybody's watching, something's wrong.
Well, they're not
What's
watching.
up,
Okay.
audience?
Well,
Hello.
BJ's got her camera on. It looks like.
All right, you
Okay,
ready?
How's everyone doing?
I've been up since like 3:45 a.m.
Dang,
you
is that you
serious?
being a dork?
Yeah, no, I'm serious. So I don't want to go too long on this, so
Okay.
so let's try to keep it at like an hour and a half ish.
Yeah.
Because I'm
All right.
running on caffeine right now.
Oh yeah.
I'm old, so I wake up to
Monster
pee in the
Bingo,
middle of the night,
so-
and then I can't go back to sleep, and it's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Pro
Yeah,
life. Sex pro life tips.
I've been feeling weird. I think I pulled some. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I've been feeling pretty awful up until about now.
I'm sorry.
That's where I was up until like the minute that we. I know, but I feel fine now. So I think I pulled something. I'm getting old, and I try to lift not even heavy objects, like medium weight objects, and I can f myself up. I put myself like basically in the ER working last Christmas, which I mean I don't really celebrate Christmas per se. My mom does. So, but anyways, long story short, I need to watch myself because I'm not quite sex age, or I don't know, probably.
Guys, I just noticed something that if you're looking at the top where it says that we're live right now, there's a little
Yeah.
it looks like an odometer or a speedometer. If you tap that, you can actually adjust your performance settings. So if you find that it's dragging for you, you can turn it down for lower quality, but I don't think that should affect the recording. It should just affect the end user.
Is that? Oh, I can't touch it because no, I don't know. I think it just indicates doesn't it just indicate your connection?
No, it says I can adjust for best performance or highest quality. I don't know what that means.
I can't.
That's weird.
Wait, maybe I can. Oh,
That's
I
just
see
for
it.
it's just for the end user,
Yes.
maybe not
Yeah.
for the streamer. I'm not sure.
No. I see it. Yes. No, it.
Because
You
I
know
know
what it
you
will
don't
do?
have a great connection.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because I've seen that button. I've never tried to guess what that
Yeah,
does.
just maybe put it to medium, Penguin, because we don't want to have a shitty recording,
Yeah.
But we still want you to have better connection for us,
Am I coming through clearly? And is there any choppiness at all?
No, you have been, but I just know that you always kind of complain about issues. And
Well, yeah, but I want the best audio quality too. So right now I'm going to keep it on best quality.
you've sounded
But it's
great
good to
so
know.
far. No, you sounded great
Okay.
so far. I just wanted to point that
That's
out.
good to know if there's any choppiness in any of our interviews because like we interview people from all like everywhere. I think you guys. I've never noticed any issues with you guys. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started with the thing. Yeah. Is everybody here? I just. How do I go back to the?
I am not here.
Hold on. I forgot how this thing works. I double click on the middle of the screen and double click on sec. No, it doesn't work.
What are you trying to do?
Okay. I'm trying to go back to the screen where it shows everybody
Oh,
at once. What do you do?
Yeah. I forgot.
Okay, forget it. I don't care.
Down in the bottom, there's like a thing like ours has 4 squares, so it's showing like the 4 of us, and I'm sure
Oh, yeah,
click
that's
on
it.
that button with like the Windows arrangement.
Hide
Yeah.
self view.
Toggle tile view. Yeah. A new poll was added. What?
I'm just being stupid.
Yes.
Oh,
Just
all
keep
right.
voting.
What is occurring?
I had a feeling that was you, unless it was me screwing around really badly.
All right, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fuck, man. Okay. Hold on a second. Oh, I don't know how to fix this. Okay. Sec.
Also, I've got horror movies to watch.
Oh man, we watched like 4 yesterday.
Oh yeah, what'd you watch?
We watched The Gate, which is from the 80s.
I've seen that.
We watched, it was decent. We watched Mosquito from like '94, which was hilariously terrible.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Which is the movie
Wait,
called
The Gate's the
May.
one where they play the record, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the
We
metalheads.
watched Swords of
They
Salem the other night.
Sounds awful.
the metalheads like open the gate to hell, right? Is that it?
No, sort of. That's where they get the information about opening the gate to hell. But it's just the random coincidence of other events happen, like the lightning strikes and it blows up a tree, and then somebody throws a dead dog down the hole, like to get rid of the dead dog, and that's like offering a sacrifice.
No, I do remember. It's been a long time, but I do vaguely remember seeing that. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna do something different for the pod. I don't know.
Oh, God.
I'm just gonna do a cold open. Just kind of. I'm not gonna do tagline. Just music and a cold open. Okay. All right.
What was the core of the podcast 2 episodes ago? Horror movies.
Metalhead's opening the gates of hell.
Wait, we could talk about. We could literally just go in and talk about horror movies. But
No, I'm leaving then.
You don't like horror movies?
3, 2,
Fuck no.
1. And we're back. Hey guys, welcome. We're doing a live Q&A. That's live with the our friends that are here. Sorry about the background noise. It's Saturday, and am I coming through clearly? Let me know if I'm having like really bad, background noise.
You're fine.
Yeah, it's Saturday. Everybody's out like having fun. It's actually really nice out. It's like the temperature's just shot back up from where it was getting kind of chilly. I don't know. How's everybody doing? How's the weather in your neck of the woods?
Really balmy and sunny today.
It was nice today, but it's drizzling right now.
I mean, it was cold this morning, but it warmed up it warmed up quite a bit.
Yeah, I was in a t-shirt today. It was like 70 something.
Hey, drizzling
Yep.
is nice too, you weatherist.
I do, man. I don't. It's water in my plants right now, so I'm not complaining. We kind of need the rain, so
Hell yeah.
yep.
All right, so we were talking
So
horror movies.
Well, yeah, we can talk horror movies, but BJ had we should probably start it out with BJ had a question. She posted in the Agora the Patrons group. BJ,
Well,
fire away.
Yeah, I just wanted to get everybody's like insight on something that I've only recently discovered as you guys have gotten to know me over the last, few months. I'm still a newbie to, being anarchy and that kind of stuff. But something I noticed over the last few years is that like in my freedom cells and, my friends that call themselves like libertarian, little L libertarian, they kind of get sort of swayed into this like sovereign idealistic stuff. And I'm not saying that they're the ones that are part of this. I'm saying that these are the people that are receptive to that kind of stuff, where it's like they tell you that, there's certain things you can say to, the ABC boys and all these other people. There's certain words that you can use and certain paperwork and things that you can file and mail to them, and it's just magically undoes anything that they might be going after you for. And number one, I don't believe that. Number two, unless it's like maybe your tax attorney helping you with something, that might be different. But like when it comes to like fighting tickets or having to be brought into the court of law or any of these other things. I'm sorry, but I just don't find it to be, it just seems like voodoo and like magic. And I'm not buying the fact that anyone who claims to have power over any person in the state is going to just sit there and be like, fold their arms, bend, and sit back and say, go ahead and tell us everything you want us to, to do for you. And some of my friends who I really care for in the freedom cells and people that are maybe new to ideas of agorism and anarchy and things like that, but still are open and receptive to them, are kind of being pulled into the allure of this idea that you can be, a quote unquote sovereign citizen if you buy some sort of, PDF online or go to some webinar and pay like $50 or even $500 to have some, super person I've never heard of that all these people have heard of give them some sort of course. And it's like, okay, first of all, if you follow some of the people out there that have been talking about these things for years, they're going to tell you that if there is, things that you can do to fight back against these people, that it would probably be out there for free, and it wouldn't be, it would be public knowledge, and it would be something that you could just, have an attorney talk to you about, or you could, learn on your own through many various free means without signing your life over, or even that $50 maybe you needed for groceries. You know what I mean? And so I always wanted to kind of get your guys' take on this stuff without like contempt and scorn and, making fun of the people that maybe fall for this stuff because they're trying to be as free as they can be. They're not hurting people. These are people that are my friends and they're in my freedom cells with me, and they like to barter and they love to help do gardening stuff, and we love to do things together. I don't think they're malicious or stupid. I think that they just need to be told or at least presented with the idea that this is not for them, and it could just actually make more trouble for them rather than just kind of being more of a free person who just kind of bypasses things that they're not comfortable with rather than trying to fight against it.
Sovereign citizens. You have a gold fringe on that flag. This is now admiralty court.
Sorry, what?
Well, I've had a lot of friends that were into this kind of stuff, sovereign citizen. And there's a guy in our freedom cell here locally who's sort of sovereign adjacent. He's very into various legal forms and cover and making land trusts and get it stamped and notarized by the whatchamacallit and free assemblies and blah blah blah. So my understanding of this sovereign citizen thing is essentially that at some point the U.S. was turned into a corporation rather than an actual country. So we were turned into subjects as opposed to free men, and we exist under basically what's called admiralty law, which is not justified jurisdiction. That is the basic argument for sovereign citizens. So you can, file certain paperwork, or you don't need this, that, or the other sort of licensing or all of that sort of thing. That's all considered commercial transactions. So you don't need those for just traveling. So I've heard all this story before.
Their vehicle is a vessel, so it doesn't need license plates and everything.
Yeah, it's not a commercial transportation.
Yeah, that was a very popular thing on some YouTube videos that they were posting too, like how some people have like a special license made that's like not by any official body that says that I'm a free citizen or whatever the fuck.
Right.
I've seen a lot of YouTube videos of people being pulled out of cars by the cops while they're screaming, "I'm a traveler, I'm a free citizen."
Right.
So that's kind of like my thing about it.
Smash the window out and grab them out the car. Yeah.
Right. Here's the thing. I try not to make fun of these people too much. I really don't.
No, I'm not. Yeah. I'm just that's my aversion to even thinking about doing this.
They could be correct. The thing is, they're probably right. But
Exactly.
it's coupled with a sort of a misunderstanding of the nature of state actors. They're okay. Listen, they are violence brokers. They don't even follow their own rules. You know what I'm saying? So, like,
Right.
to quote, so even if these people, these sovereign citizens, are correct, it doesn't matter. The state actors are the ones with the guns, and they're going to do mostly what they want.
100%.
So, to quote a fellow by the name of Ben Stone, he used to have the Bad Quaker podcast.
Bad Quaker, yeah.
Yeah. He was talking about how people were saying that Obama wasn't a legitimate president because he was born in, I don't know, of Kenya or whatever it was supposed to be. And he said, well, so you'd be okay with him being president if he had the proper paperwork? He says, I'll tell you what, if you don't believe he's the president, there's a guy standing next to him with an MP5 who will put you full of holes and convince you rather quickly. The point being is they have the guns. So even if you're right, it doesn't matter. They will still kill you. So it's a very dangerous game. And yes, there are YouTube videos of people winning in court. And I think mostly the winning in court thing, which seems to be a 50-50 at best, depends on the judge you get and whether he feels like dealing with you. And I think the winning in court is mostly the judge just like irritated and not knowing what to do with you and
dismissing you. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Get out of my court. I don't have time for this shit. Whatever. What are you talking about?
It's probably traffic court where they.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So you're just. I mean, so that might be waste the court's time. That might be a viable strategy. I'm kind of for that. But the bottom line is these people do not follow rules. They especially don't follow rules, from hundreds of years ago, and they will just murder you to get their way and get away with it. So to me, this seems much more risky than just trying to make yourself invulnerable to that sort of coercion.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I'm going to try not to call them like stupid or weirdos, but to take it somewhat seriously, because I think some of them should be taken seriously. I mean, I think some level of people are just going to be beyond reasoning with, but like you have to realize the world doesn't work on like arcane rules that if you just kind of outmaneuver and look up some special rules, say some special code or give the secret handshake that you get some kind of special privilege or an immunity from some law that everybody else it's kind of foisted on everyone else. I mean, just the world simply does not work like that. The world works on a variety of other things that's not special secret arcane rules. And even if it was that weird guy on YouTube or this guy giving you a seminar, or some guy that's screaming about admiralty law is not going to be the guy that knows all the secrets versus all the other possible people that could have the arcane knowledge and so forth. It kind of reminds me of an old news radio episode of where Jimmy James goes and gives the boss, the guy that played Milton on Office Space. What's his name? Anyways,
Stephen Root.
Oh, I love that guy. Yeah. Anyways,
Great.
he gives the judge a secret handshake that says Tubal Cain, and that's the secret Masonic code. And he gives him the secret Masonic handshake, and in the end, he just gets left off. But I was like, yeah, that's great. It's like the Simpsons episode where he joins the Masons and he gets the secret, like all the secret highways and everything. But yeah, the real world doesn't exactly work that way, and I know enough people are clearly getting led down that kind of path that it's obviously it's obviously worth addressing and worth taking seriously. And I'm not sure exactly why. I think some level that like maybe there might be some kind of kind of an innate desire for a type of mysticism, like literally a type of mysticism that's not really present in our society, or whatever, and just kind of having the arcane knowledge and be able to kind of like I kind of cast some sort of spell.
Right, like finding out truths and like conspiracy theories coming true, and kind of like just clinging to hope that something magical could happen.
Yeah, but the praxis is that you like know the secret thing and make the special document and get it notarized and everything, and then it's just like you're literally like casting the kind of spell that makes you immune from whatever court cases being brought against you and everything.
It's seriously sigil magic. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get into like psychopathologizing these people, but
No.
you know,
But
whatever it is, you know, I can't take it seriously, and I hope that it's not one of those things that someone gets too far into where they can't be convinced that no, this is just not how things work. Because it's hard for me to understand how you would kind of go down that path. Because I always just kind of roll my eyes at the whole thing.
no, I mean, part of me is kind of fond of those people because there's a certain innocence to it. You know, like you think that if you do things the right way, this system could work for you, and that's kind of adorable.
Right. Well, on the flip side of that, there are actors in there that are scamming people and making them think that they can do this, and
That's definitely true. Yeah.
and that's what I'm worried about my my Agora members and Freedom Cell members and people that are really new to liberty and ideas of anti-statism, very new to it, like newer to it than me, and I feel like I want to be able to tell them this stuff without making it sound like I think you're stupid and here's why.
So here's
have them
what I
listen
would
to
do.
for the podcast.
Yeah, well, yeah. Number one, show them our podcast, which I'm terrible.
I always promote you guys on my local circles. You just don't know it because you're not in them,
Right. We're not hip and cool.
Just you're not local. We don't have non-locals in the group. That's all.
No, I get you. I would, rather than pointing to why their ideas are stupid, I would point to try to describe an analysis of the state and what that entails. So, the state is a group of people who inflicts violence on the populace on behalf of certain interests, right? So if you can lay out in very simple terms what the state actually does, this already negates whatever special magic words and paperwork people can file, because none of that really matters, because the real material reality of the state is empirically provable to be something entirely different than whatever some words were written down on paper. You see what I mean?
100%. And we talk about the evils of the state a lot, but a lot of people still think that there's this, well, there's the good government and but also there's no black and white, because sometimes being an anarchist or agorist in a practical sense, not the true hardcore sense, but just in the practical sense, a lot of times that means it's gray rather than black and white, where you say things like, here's my philosophy on taxes. The only reason that I force myself sometimes to pay for certain things is so that I can avoid jail, because I don't want that. And that's an inconvenience for me. That's not great. And also because I don't need the harassment. I don't need to be made an example of. It's not out of fear. It's just really inconvenient. And I think a lot of people would agree with me on that in my group. But the difficulty comes when you say, well, the state is, I hate everything. State is everything I hate. And here's why I avoid interacting with it at all costs. But then, well, I still pay a tax here and there. It's like, then they seem to not have this idea about, well, it can't be that absolute. It really can't. Like, for a practical sense, in the society we live in now, in the society where literally every part of your life has some tentacle from the state in it. And so we've had these discussions in the recent past. This summer, we've had a series on basically the money system of the government, and we've had to watch these documentaries and then have discussions about them. And it's a lot of that Aaron Russo and kind of like, oh, here's the IRS that says right here at the IRS that you don't have to file taxes and all this other stuff. And I've been quoting Ben about a lot of his stuff that basically says, sure, you can try to bypass this and that, but don't think that just because you're a nobody, quote unquote, that they won't make an example out of you, or that they won't come after you, or that they won't make you pay or tase you if you decide to go run in court and say, I've got this paper that says blah, 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 because they will fucking do all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I want to encourage them to say, hey, whatever you feel comfortable bypassing the state by avoidance versus, say, evasion, right? And all these other things. And there's still this kind of ether where a lot of my words kind of just dissipate and they don't reach them.
Yeah, they'll what Larkin Rose did like a year in federal prison for not filing, and under one of those rules, so they will, they definitely will do things to you.
Yeah.
With the whole
Irwin Schiff died in prison for that exact reason, because he said
Yeah.
the income tax was illegitimate and refused to pay it. He died in prison for that.
Yeah. So, they definitely will come after you. And, my thing with any of this stuff too is like, I think it gives cops and like government officials way too much credit. Like, cause you think that like when you tell them, oh, I'm this citizen, I have this paperwork and whatever, that they're going to understand or believe you or know like what you're like, they're pulled aside like in the second week of police training and said, hey, so just so you guys know, if somebody shows you this or that, then you got to let them go or whatever. Like, obviously that doesn't happen. So like,
don't we wish? I mean, no, of course not.
Yeah. Or you're going to get a cop who actually loves freedom and like, 1776 and the Constitution is, you know what, gosh darn it, you're right. And like, it's just, it just seems kind of far-fetched that something like that would happen, and just gives them a lot of credit. That again, like Sex said, like even if you can be right all day long, it's like the, and don't get me wrong. I mean, God bless these people. I love to see the videos, and I love that there are people who get pushback. And I guess I wish I had the balls and was like clean enough to do something like this. But like, the people who do the things like, oh, they don't roll the window all the way down and they stick the little baggie with their stuff out. You see the ones where the cop throws the door open and yells at them and this and that. And it's like, yeah, I want to go home. Like if I'm getting pulled over by the cops, like it's, my hands are out the window, my keys are on the dashboard. It's yes, sir, no, ma'am. Like I'm going home. Like, I'm not about giving them shit, at the time, because it's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, it's just not. You can be right all day long. But
no, and that's just another example of like where I said if you want to be a practical anarchist, you don't fuck around. Even though you hate the state, you still kind of have to act like everything's cool,
Yeah, no, that's probably kind of want that kind
what
of
was
thing.
the name of that article I wrote, Penguin? Do you remember?
I'd love to know too.
But I know exactly which one you're talking about, where you said that, purposeful compliance, whatever.
Oh yeah,
purposeful compliance. We did an episode on this as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll look.
Maybe that was our episode, but there was I'll repost it. Yeah. I
basically made this entire point. It's like, listen, if you're moving like pounds of weed, you're going to make sure your registration is up to date. Your lights are all working. Your driver's license is up to date and paid for. You're not, if you're doing real underground shit, you're not making statements or what do you call it?
Trying to get attention,
There's a word for that, like
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like a protest or whatever for but I don't have to pay for this
activism.
Yeah, exactly. Political activism. You don't have time for that because that's going to get you fucking shot or in jail, right?
Right.
So if you're doing real agorist stuff, you need to make sure that sort of shit is at least looks the part
on the up and up.
You got to do on the up and up.
I mean, it's a cost of doing business. Exactly. Like if you're going to be doing something that they don't like, I'm not going to say bad things. I think everybody should be able to do bad things as long as it doesn't hurt anybody. If they're doing something the state doesn't like, you got to play, like you said, play all the parts and check all the T's and dot all the I's.
Yeah, I'll one up you on that though. Even if you're not, like if you really hold it, the state is what it is and it's coercion and you don't like it. If that's the case, then tell me this, like what would you rather do? Like Dag said, probably just want to get out of it and get home as soon as possible, no matter what you're doing. I mean, what's the actual, I don't want to deal with this kind of situation response.
Yeah, I think that was Zach's point,
Yeah, going through all this theatrics or running around with some kind of handmade license plate that says you are sovereign and this is a vessel or whatever. You're the captain of this vessel. Like I don't know. I mean, it could legitimately, whatever this means, it could legitimately be some form of, mental illness, so-called mental illness. It could be, in fact, just wanting to have attention or wanting to have this conversation because it eventually will occur. And frankly, I don't have to be doing anything to not want that attention. I don't want that attention because my time is valuable.
Yeah, and I point out with these people when the tax stuff comes up and the tickets and all that, I'm always saying, well, here's the thing, like there's civil disobedience and then there's like just doing what you have to do, whether you like it or not. And one of my favorite references to that was the Beyond Civil Disobedience series. It's like a 3-4 part thing that Ben Stone did with his partner at the time. And they were, they went through and pointed out all that stuff. Like Sek was saying that, just because it's the president, and these people really, I feel bad because I was there a few years ago. They still have this like love relationship with the Constitution. They still have a, trusting, they trust in, even smaller governments. And I understand that, but it's like this whole, you guys, we're going to go to this class where we meet our sheriff. And I'm like, really? Okay, have fun. Because then they don't meet the sheriff. They also say, well, we want to do all this freedom stuff and we want to know where you sit with that. And no, I'm not going to tell the sheriff all my weird ideas about the state.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine, because I've in another capacity, I have like dealt with law enforcement, even in the past, like recent times. But it's in a totally different capacity than that. There's no reason why that would ever come up. Although I do consider that activism, but on a different front, more.
Well, they're yeah.
But anyways, that's a whole nother. That's another community thing that I do. And yeah, I have. And guess what? That's not at all relevant, and I can't imagine. But see, what it kind of also strikes me as, besides being eccentric, is also just kind of like unserious. Like if you really considered this, if you were really so at odds, and if you were really so threatened by state power and the potential for what can come of your interactions with the state, which it doesn't often, but it could be like really disastrous. You wouldn't like court it. You wouldn't, I don't know. My time is valuable. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of stuff. If they want to invite scrutiny and drama in their lives, that's on them. And that seems to be kind of what the position they are. Like when I think of anarchists of the type of like street anarchists, like, kind of more of the anarchist street punks, socialist anarchists in various cities, Europe and stuff. And I only have a vague idea of these kind of lifestyles, but they generally don't like go out and seek, obviously, except for during like, direct action and actual purposeful violent confrontations and whatnot. They don't go out and like seek attention from the police or some kind of like conversing with the police and trying to use some kind of like, I don't know, cheat code in order to get immunity from going to jail.
Right.
And I know it's a totally different thing that I won't be surprised if it spreads on the internet to other countries, maybe Brazil or somewhere. But like, this is a totally American phenomenon. Like this is something that comes out of weird kind of right-wing culture gone awry, some underground so-and-so. There's even like, there's a lot of Black Americans that do the whole sovereign citizens, but they say they're from Morocco, and they fly the Moroccan flag as their like sovereign state identity, and they make like Moroccan licenses, which is funny because Morocco is a real country and they use the actual Moroccan flag. I don't know how they square that, but there's infinite variations you can come up with on this whole thing. But it seems to me really unserious if you really feel that your life like can be immediately threatened by state action, which to some extent it can.
Yeah, and there's no consistency and no 100% guarantee either way. What if you're attracting attention of the state, you're gonna get it basically if you want it. Probably not in the way that you would like.
Yeah, and people that you can generally 9 times out of 10 avoid interacting with if you wanted to. I mean, you're not going to get pulled. Most people are not going to get pulled over every day, so forth and so on and so forth. And you certainly don't want to bring any level.
Yeah, a lot of this discussion around sovereignty in our groups is just they use the word in a way that I don't think they understand. Like we have an understanding of what sovereign means. I feel like I'm sovereign. That means I take care of myself and my own, and I don't let anybody else do it or tell me what I can and can't do. But then there's this, sovereign with a capital S, where these people are, there's a mixed kind of stuff happening. And I just really, like I said, I would really hate for these people to fall under you know, these kind of ideas that everybody agrees seems illogical. And but when you see these quotes being thrown around at other freedom groups and Telegram, and you're not really digging in and researching and kind of doing your own work and figuring out what's real and what's not real, they just kind of, you know, it's like Santa Claus, you know, they believe in it, but they're not really doing anything. It's kind of a casual attraction to the word sovereign. There are some people in my group that have posted things like, here's a link for this couple that does teleseminars or whatever on Zoom, and they'll teach all this stuff about, you know, blah, 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 and it's $800. And I'm like, you know, I could go and read a free PDF on, you know, Liberty Under Attack about how to cancel my voter registration, or how to, you know, find someone in my area who knows tax law, and all these other things that are within the constraints of being legal, but also like not freaky. And
I could 3D print. I could learn how to 3D print replacement parts for like any machine that I own, with enough practice by reading free PDFs and watching free videos. I can learn how to do almost anything with free PDFs, free videos. So yeah, there's a lot more productive stuff that you can learn for free.
That was the point I was going to make, is like all the time and effort and potentially money and energy that you would spend trying to like learn all these like secret laws or whatever, you could be putting that energy towards things that actually affect real change in your life and in your community. You know what I mean? For far less energy and time.
yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead. I want to go ahead and like offer a caveat, because I'm gonna otherwise come down really hard on this whole idea. But like, just a couple of things in my time on just like chilling and watching YouTube videos over the past, you know, few years, that people that call themselves First Amendment auditors, you know, they can be pretty obnoxious, and they're not all, there's a wild inconsistency between them, but like they do seem to or just people in that are adjacent to that do know actual case law and rights, or there's actually a video series that I watched that actually explains those. Sometimes it's not people that are willfully doing these interactions, but sometimes they are, and sometimes it's totally people that have no knowledge in where the cops have messed up. But anyway, I've learned quite a bit from that actually about like the you know, case law and then the different states and all this stuff. It's not terribly useful knowledge, but the point being is like those guys can actually talk their way out of stuff, because there's actually like this will get thrown out. This is this precedent in this like federal district and circuit. I mean, and what they can and can't do, and what the policy is or isn't, and they're actually knowledgeable based on, I mean, this is the thing, they're knowledgeable based on like real information and real legal precedent and so forth and so on, and that information is technically available. These people are often like contriving situations where they're basically filming like a police inside of a police station, they're filming like a group home or something, or they're doing something
it's like the fake judge or whatever.
I don't know, I mean, they're just out in public kind of provoking a mild police interaction usually, and then
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the fake judge. Sometimes they have fake judges on these YouTube videos, and they're like an
no,
yeah, no, I've heard of this.
I know they have. I just didn't know the guys that just kind of do it one person interacting with the cops or a small group of people, whatever.
Right.
But you know, it's not those. Like I said, a lot of these videos are actually me learning about it based on like just bad cop interactions and what went wrong. So it's not, and sometimes they do actually assert their rights even if they're not fully knowledgeable. But there is a lot of information you could do if you often have to contrive the interaction. But those guys can be really good. Some of the very best ones, the top, you know, 10% of these guys, they can get their way in the end. That could be, you know, their day in court way down the line. But there's no secret way to not pay, no secret cheat code not to pay taxes. It's just not going to happen. Another thing I want to say, I think I lost my second point, but I did want to shout out those. No. But I did want to shout out those guys. Yeah, they're pretty good.
Anything else?
I want to say first off that I hope that these people figure something out, right? Like that'd be great, right? If they did come up with something. So I don't want to poo-poo anybody's like ideas, too much, because like, man, wouldn't it be great if they figured out a cheat code?
Yeah.
But my thing is, I just feel like everybody would already be doing it. You know what I mean? If there was
100%.
something, like I just, I've heard people like, oh, I know somebody who is a sovereign citizen or this or that, but I've never seen any receipts. I've never, gotten 100% clarification of what that actually means. And I was kind of thinking like what BJ was saying, I'm almost wondering if they're just saying it in like the, the sense of like, I'm a free human being because I am, and blah, like, okay, yeah, like that's right. But like, there's supposed to be this legal thing that's supposed to exist. And I just don't know if people mean that legal thing or not,
Yeah, I never know when my
I've never
freedom
met
cell.
somebody that it's
Yeah, I never know when my freedom cell people that are local to me, like when we're in the Telegram, in between get-togethers, when they forward stuff like, "Oh, this is how to be truly sovereign." I don't know if they're getting that from these wackadoos or if they're just getting it from people like you and me, who are, for the most part, agorists, anarchists, and they're just, expressing the sentiment of sovereignty. But I can see that there's a trend going in the way that I don't feel comfortable with my friends getting suckered into this shit. But, but they're also free to do whatever they want. I just want to have some sort of sensible rebuttal to say, hey, you guys should really watch out for some of the. So I've been looking to see if anybody's aware of any actual scams or any actual, just even like if there's a TikTok video out there where this guy's like, hey, watch out for these people because they're scamming people, and there's really no real way to do this. And if you really think the state is awful, then why would you try to beg them for, your freedom or your help or whatever?
Yeah, I wanted to point out this is actually related. It's the other thing I learned from watching a bunch of videos on YouTube is that every cop knows what a sovereign citizen is now, and they will call it in right away, and they'll call the situation when they see somebody acting like a sovereign citizen or close to a sovereign citizen. They will say, we have a sovereign citizen on the hand. They'll call a bunch more cops, and they'll get you. I mean, it's because it's been a thing for quite a long time, and it can get you hurt and in a lot of trouble. And there's no way where you're just like, I don't have to get out of my car because this document says it's a boat and you're boarding a private vessel under maritime.
Yeah, didn't that
laws.
happen in like Pennsylvania or something recently? Like they caught him at like a rest stop or something, and I don't remember if there was a shootout or some of the dudes ran off into the woods or something. But yeah, it's
Jersey or Pennsylvania somewhere. It was the
somewhere
Moroccans.
up there. Yeah,
they were Moors. They're not called Moroccans. They're called Moors, but they use the flag of the actual state of Morocco. So they're called Moors. They're like the black sovereign citizens. And they call them Moors. That's what it is. I mean, it comes from Moorish science, the Moorish temple, and a bunch of long tradition of black alternative like religion and stuff. But they have like, I've seen their driver's license, just like a lot of sovereign citizens make with their own like free licenses and free IDs and free license plates. Really a lot in common. It's really basically the same thing, but they have this kind of like African, that we're the true African people, whatever, lost tribe of Israel or something. I don't know. But those guys were all in a van. I don't think they were going to harm anybody. They were going down to do some kind of like military training somewhere, and they were pulled over. And they had ended up in the middle of the night, like on the free. They were off the freeway trying to, tie something down on their van or fix something very minor, and a state trooper pulls them over, and they end up having this huge standoff, and they really didn't do anything wrong, but they were waving their Moorish flags and whatnot, and they were armed. They had a lot of weapons like in the back of the van and everything. So like,
oh my god,
yeah,
kind of sad.
A few years back, I believe it was either a couple or a woman. I can't remember now, but it was mainly the woman that was the outspoken one, and she was a sovereign citizen. And they fucking shot her. So cops are trained to now. Cops for a very long time have been trained to deal with sovereign citizens as domestic terrorists. Now they're including fucking everybody in that label nowadays. But
and your YouTube video will get flagged if you.
They were trained. They've been trained to view them as a fucking threat. So cops are trigger happy and very scared and pee their pants very easily and pull the trigger. So it's just a fucking risky gamble. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That's like what happened to.
They will tag their videos, YouTube videos, and with the something. If you do a cyber citizen video, they will do all this information and say this. Be careful about believing this.
That's like what happened to Philando Castile here in St. Paul. The guy that had a quote unquote tail light out, and a cop freaked out when he was reaching down to get his ID and shot the fuck out of him.
Yep.
It was just fucking like a lunch lady, but he was a dude. He was a cafeteria guy for a school, and him and his girlfriend smoked a blunt or a joint in the car, and they were driving home and they had a kid in the car with them. And what happened was they actually pulled him over because he quote unquote met the description of a recent store robbery person. And that's not why they said they pulled him over. They said it was for a taillight. They didn't say any, then
Well, yeah,
you can see the
SOP.
video on the dash cam of the cop freaking the fuck out, like Zach said, peeing his pants.
Yeah, well, that's SOP. I mean, that's pretextual stop and everything. Oh man, this goes back to those videos that I was watching that I was referencing. But no, yeah, the issue is, well, a few things with that one. He didn't really do anything particularly wrong. I mean, he wasn't asserting some kind of sovereign anything.
No, of course not. That was just an example of a cop freaking out. That's all I meant.
Yeah, but I guess cop is gun plus weed plus potentially black guy. It's gets nervous, which is that is illegal. So I guess there was going to have to be something somewhere, but that doesn't mean this guy. My only issue is that Castile had been pulled over. See, this is yes, the shooting him is very bad, but another big thing is that he's been pulled over like in the past few years, like 30, 40 times, and man, that's just apparently a gamble every time.
That's true, but that's true, but that's what you do when you sign up as a cop. You're signing your life away.
Well, no, but you don't know. But one person getting pulled over. I'm talking about one person. Castile was pulled over several dozen times in a fairly short period of time. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So
I did not know that, and it was just weird because I saw the video and the girlfriend's like, he's just getting his ID out or whatever, and that's when he freaked out.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I guess we could speculate about that all day long, but still, we don't know. And that was just an example of a cop being scared and not anything else. So I guess we could just scratch that from the record. Then it wasn't related, really.
No. I mean, honestly, like we could. No, we could. No, it is. That's what I was kind of saying. It was kind of the point that I was making before that. It's like that these cops are trained, already know what it is, immediately know when you start pulling that like sovereign citizen stuff, they're going to call it in. They're going to say, yeah, I've seen it so many times on these body cams. Like, yeah, we got a sovereign citizen on our hands, and they go get a few more, box him in. Because they know he's going to make a scene, which, again, like to the point I'm making, is that anybody that's like a genuine anarchist, whether you're an illegalist anarchist or an agorist, or if you're just any sort of anarchist, anybody that doesn't like to talk to cops. So just like tons of people in that category. Anybody who's like a criminal, anybody who's like an intelligence agent or a spy, or anybody who just like doesn't feel like dealing with some kind of situation
or the state at all. Like we pretty much will keep
whoever
what we're supposed to do just to remain out of the microscope.
It's going to carry themselves in a much different way than trying to basically provoke the cops by running around with Moorish flag license plate. But that's
right.
Whatever. Not to be a dead horse.
Or even just like trying to go to the court with what they think is a legit piece of paper that they bought from somebody on the internet who said you can use this in court or whatever. And it's so, yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I could point that out to them too and say, well, if you want to avoid trouble with, the law and with the state and whatever you want to refer to it as, if you want to avoid trouble with these people, the best way to do that is to, have agorist solutions. Like instead of, worrying about your taxes from your job or whatever, like, start working for yourself and start offering value for value trades or different ways of currency for your income and different ways of reporting that which are legally avoiding without worrying about evasion and things like that. And like ideally, wouldn't it be great if everybody was either self-employed or employed privately, so that for people that can't or don't want to run a business and find partners to work with, that can you can avoid a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the actual cheat code is just go do what you want and try your best to hide it.
Yep.
There's no like paper. You don't need paperwork for, just the cheat code is just go do it. You know what I mean? Just,
Yeah,
you know,
and that's the kind of stuff that I bring to the Freedom Cell. There are a couple more people like me who are employed to them with themselves or who have just basically gone and done their own thing and started accepting services and products and goods in alternative ways and just reporting things differently or not reporting them at all because maybe they're cash or maybe they're just, you can't report receiving corn from somebody. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's a non-taxable incident, or that's not a taxable incident.
Right, exactly. I'm saying like
Yeah.
if you're creative about what you're offering for your value and what you're receiving, then there's you're on the up and up. You're already legally not having to pay taxes for that.
Carl Hess did that for like the last 20 years of his life, I think.
Yeah, I bring him up a lot.
He was a tax protester, so any dime of income he ever made, the IRS was just going to take it anyway. So what he started doing was just working for barter. He bartered for materials that he needed or food that he needed, and he was a pretty good welder and a motorcycle mechanic, and he would just trade his services for stuff he needed, and so he never had what they call a taxable event. It was all barter. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought Carl Hess up again as well, because I just remembered like he's another one of those people that like they made an example out of, and it didn't matter who he was, and he wasn't anybody important at the time. You know what I mean? And people who think, well, I'm nobody, they're never going to find me. Well, they can. So, and they will, and they'll take what they want from you when they're done with you.
I'll quote Ben Stone again because it's applicable, but people tend to think that I'm not big enough for the feds to go after, right? So Ben Stone makes this point. He says they're not like assassins or hitmen, the state. They're more like an alligator. They're not going to go after like the most valuable target. They're going to go whatever's closest and easiest to them.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yep. So it's the little guys that are going to are going to get the hammer dropped down on them just because they're easy or they're close by or some Fed stumbled upon what they were doing. That's all there is to it.
They're like Pokemon. You collect them all, and they're
quicker wins.
Yeah.
The DA would rather have some poor person who's slinging, a couple of pounds of weed a week or whatever than trying to go after the cartels because they can afford lawyers. It's a much harder case. They might lose on a technicality, whereas the poor dude who's slinging a couple of pounds of weed a week might not be able to afford a lawyer. It's probably going to plead out, and it's a quick win for the DA.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
Yep. So it's not how big you are. It's just sometimes it's you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or sometimes it's you did something stupid, or you were just the closest, you happen to be the closest to that federal agent, and they figured out what you were doing, or they figured out what one of your friends was doing. That's how it really works,
Yeah. Well, and that's like I say, there's two ways that I've been going about this with these people and saying, hey, here's some stuff that they can do, whether you think you're a nobody, and here's some stuff that you could probably do and just to avoid being looked at, and by doing everything legally possible that you can, and also stuff that's maybe not necessarily quote unquote legal, but isn't regulated.
Yeah, for sure. That's the best possible move, I think. So.
I appreciate all the insights, guys, and kind of confirming. I hate having confirmation bias, but in this case, I felt very uncomfortable about these sovereign types kind of influencing my neighbors, basically.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Do you have any more?
On
Great. You always had the best questions, honestly. Well, you had the most questions, first of all, which is good because it keeps the conversation going. But did you have anything else? Did anybody have anything?
No, that was good.
Hey, thank you for indulging my topic. I didn't mean to hijack the whole thing, but
it's something I haven't talked about much, at all, ever with anybody. But it's something I kind of had some thoughts on, so that was interesting that it came up.
Yeah, and I appreciate your appreciated your insights as well, Dag.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it needed to be said too. So it's good. Dag, you had a question? I think.
Yeah, so I guess I wanted something to bring to the table, a topic today, and something that was very poignant for me today was I finally way behind schedule got milkweed seeds up on the website for Gorse Acres.
Hard
And
segue. Sorry.
yeah. So
wait. That's what do you guys use milkweed for? That's good news, by the way.
So milkweed's kind of a specific. So it's you use it for monarch butterflies. So if you're familiar with like the way the monarch butterflies like migrate, they go from like Mexico to like Canada and then back, but it's not the same butterfly that does the whole trip. Like it dies and its kid picks up where it left off, and like it's this like multi-generational like migration thing. It is insane. But so I guess like they only eat, or a big part of their diet or something is both for I think maybe the larva and then maybe for the nectar for the butterflies is milkweed. Now there's a lot of different types of milkweed, and you need to make sure if you can grow like a lot of milkweed wherever and it's fine, but if you're doing it for the butterflies, which is what most people want to do it for, it needs to be, depending on what region of the country you live in, the right kind of milkweed that the butterfly is expecting to find at that time of year at that place, because it doesn't need the same type of milkweed that its parents needed, a few states back. It's a different type of milkweed. So it's something that I've had a lot of requests for, and I've kind of been like, it's it's a bit of research and stocking a few different ones. And anyhow, I finally did that. But in researching it, some people are like, oh man, it's kind of hard to just like grow because it needs to be like cold stratified. And basically what that means is you need to simulate wintertime for the seeds to sprout. So I've never done this for milkweed before. I've never grown milkweed. And I'm like, man, it's one of the tricky things when like I'm writing like descriptions and explaining to people on the site like how to do things for stuff I've never grown. I'm kind of like, oh man, I hope I'm not giving people bad information. So I didn't know if any of you guys had experience growing milkweed specifically. But then we were chatting a little bit about just cold stratification. There's different types of it and whatnot. So I don't know if we wanted to talk about that at all. If we want to do some gardening talk today.
I'm fascinated about this this fact about the different types, even if it's a relative of the same, possibly of the same butterfly. That's fascinating to me. I live in a place where my property owner went through in probably mid-June or July, somewhere around, not too long after we planted our garden, went through and did weed whacking all around the properties and edges. And a lot of it was like wild grape and some kind of berries, and all these things had some kind of blossom or some kind of leaf on it that was attracting bees and butterflies. Whacked it all down, thought he was, beautifying the property. I was so pissed off because there went all my bees. Thankfully, I did have tomato flowers, and that kind of attracted some of them. And thankfully, I also had bush beans, which, as you know, they blossom quite prolifically. Mm-hmm. And even though they're open pollinators, bees still like to be around flowers no matter what, just to see what else there is. And I was just kind of pissed about that. But I'm always fascinated by pollination. So,
yeah, no, it's super important. I did not. Okay, so we got milkweed growing wild all over the place here, but so I've never grown it before, and I didn't know that the monarchs mostly ate milkweed. So I'm reading it while you're talking. I'm reading up on it while you're talking, and it turns out like the larva stage eats the plants, and it looks like the grown monarch eats the sap.
The nectar, okay. Yeah, I'm on Wikipedia.
They double team it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's super. I guess it's super important for them. So how cold does it really get in the winter there?
I mean, like we'll have, here, like where we're at, we'll have a few nights a year where we get frost. Depending on the year, a couple freezes where we might have like ice on the car. Maybe I've had winters with no night, no mornings with ice on the car. And I just mean a little bit, not a lot of ice. And we've had years where maybe there's a dozen, so it depends. I guess the milkweed, I guess the seeds are really like have a thick, I don't know if husk is the right word, maybe shell, you know. So there you do the wet cold stratification with the moist paper towel. But I've had a lot of times where like, oh, people say, let's say growing certain things, oh, you need to scuff the outside, you need to do the paper towel thing and this and that. And I just plant it in dirt and it grows fine. So, I'm not saying to not do that with these seeds or anything. I just a lot of times I've grown things and people, when you look up how to do it, it's just people put way more effort into it than I find is necessary, a lot of times. So I always wonder how much of that is proven for this.
I planted some blue pea vines this year, and it was saying to cold stratify them for like 2 weeks before you plant them, or like soak them overnight and and scarify them. And I was like, oh man, I was feeling pretty impatient, and I was like, well, I'll just plant some and then I'll do all that other stuff tonight. And I never ended up getting to do that, but all of them ended up sprouting anyway, like almost all of them, without doing any of that stuff. So,
Wow.
So before we go too far, so we all know what we're talking about, but for any
I have to deal with snakes and all the other shit. That
Live streaming is on.
So stratification, or cold stratification is you're trying to recreate the conditions of winter for the seeds. I don't know if you went into that. And so there's something in the genetic code of the seeds that basically tells it that spring is coming, and they know that because the temperature drops below, a certain degree, in the winter. So you recreate this by sticking it in the freezer, or you can stick it in the fridge and spritz it in a wet paper towel, for, I don't know, a month or two, and then it'll sprout. Now that's okay. So that's stratification. My mother always just stuck seed packets in the freezer. That's where she stored them, and they seem to work fine. And then when you get into like, you got to score the shells and soak them in water. Again, this kind of goes back to the difference between like adequate and optimal, right? So like if you didn't do all that, maybe you'd have like a 97% germination rate. But if you did all that, maybe you'd have a 99% germination rate, right? So it's not something that would be like super noticeable if you're growing 50 plants or whatever, and 2 of them didn't come up. You know what I mean? So it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's like you're just optimizing results at that point, and then you just kind of have to decide like, okay, how much time do I really want to spend on scoring the shell of each one of these tiny little seeds? You know what I mean? To get
am I growing a plant that's worth $400 or a plant that's worth
exactly
50 cents,
I just spent 10 hours doing that or whatever, so it's like it'll probably be fine either way. Just either stick them in a wet paper towel and stuff them in the fridge, and you'll probably be fine for at least most things, I would think. So.
Now, I like storing seeds in general. I kind of recommend it in a lot of cases in like the fridge or something, like sealed up in like a jar, just because, like you were saying, they're like seeds have this thing that it's so amazing to me, and it really makes me question this universe that we live in. But like just in a field, all the plants of the same kind flower at the same time. Right, it's like they all got some trigger that told them to flower, and it was so specific that they all did the same thing. And the same thing will happen with seeds. Sometimes I'll plant a bunch of seeds from like a packet, and none of them come up, and I'm like, oh man, what the heck? And then I plant another batch, a few weeks later from the same packet, same circumstances otherwise, and they all come up. So it's like there's just something, that so anyhow, doing that just sort of helps trigger that, I find. Some things very specifically require it or really benefit. I think I don't know, a lot of perennials, especially, I guess they have the thicker shells, so they need to be able to survive winter, so maybe that's why you need to simulate it more. Some things, I guess, will germinate easier in water when you don't want them to, and that's why some people will do what's called a dry cold stratification, where you don't get them wet, but some things you want to get wet. So it's worth doing a little bit of research if you're doing some fancy perennials. I think for sure is what works best.
Yeah, I always wonder, like, why don't we just overwinter them? You know, like
Mhm.
just plant in the fall. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, so a
for
lot
you, that
of
might
people
not work because you're in Florida, right?
Right. Well, for the milkweed, a lot of the sources I read recommend, and I actually put this on the site too, to plant in the fall. If you don't have to worry about weeds growing up over the winter time, then a lot of people suggest doing it that way, putting the seeds out in the fall. My fear personally is I'm like, man, birds are gonna come eat them all or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You know, I feel like I'd have more control in the fridge, and
that's
that's
true.
why it's like, oh, I want to say the fridge, but I mean, most of the stuff I read, the people are like plant them in the fall, in the garden. Now these people also sell seeds, so you know, again, I don't, you know, they might benefit from the seeds get eaten by birds. I don't know, because
Right.
I'm to understand once you have this milkweed, it's with you, you know, unless you really, you know, really want to get rid of it. But I think it spreads via rhizomes and it'll reseed.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was gonna
really?
ask. I
Cool.
was gonna ask about the spreading and the reseeding because I know
Mhm.
if it was an animal that eats it and then poops it out, that there's usually a protective sac around a seed if it's like a certain type of fruit. But with flowers, I wasn't sure, so I'd like to hear if you know anything about that.
That was actually
That
going to be
might make
my. Oh, go ahead.
that might actually make a perfect plant for guerrilla gardening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was going to
Segue.
be my point. Actually, was like
Segway.
segue. That was a soft segue. No, so like that was going to be my point to you, Dag. It's like, well, it kind of depends on what your end goal and your personal valuation is, right? So, like, all right, so you put a bunch of seeds down in the fall, and birds eat some of them and spread those seeds to other places. Like, if your goal is to create more, like, let's say milk thistle, right? If your goal is to create more milk thistle or milkweed, sorry, then that's doing your job. The birds are doing your job for you. Right, they're fertilizing your seed
Yeah.
and dropping them all around, right? And also, seeds are cheap, right? So you just buy a fat bag of them and you plant a bunch of them, and if the birds eat some of them, well, okay, you know, you just spread some more seed around. I don't know. You're right though. If you have some like very important things, and this would be again the individual valuation here. If you have some really important plants, yeah, you want to do them in the fridge or the freezer or whatever. But if it's like I just bought a pound bag of milkweed because I want a bunch more milkweed around to save the butterflies, just plant shit tons of it, and the birds are going to eat some and poop it out somewhere else, and they'll grow there too. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I
gotta
will
find
say
a balance.
the milkweed seed was pretty expensive.
Oh, well, okay, fine.
Well, it's funny. Some varieties, it's like some varieties were like 8 times the price of others. And it's funny because looking at the flowers, I can see like they make a lot less seed. But yeah, I mean, if it's so funny because everybody wants to do this to save the bees, save the butterflies, this, that, you know. So it's like it shouldn't matter where the flowers grow, right? Like to your point, the birds could take them, poop them, they might grow better, right? Wherever the birds are pooping them. But then people don't get the personal virtue of walking out and seeing their butterfly garden every day, you know.
Right,
So there is that enjoyment factor too.
It is nice
But you're
seeing
right.
butterflies
Yeah.
around. I'm not gonna lie. It's very
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, people do say that everybody save the bees, save the butterflies. It's like a whole thing, so it shouldn't matter, you know, if people were really honest, I guess.
right. Oh, while we're on the subject, sell me a packet of those seeds and just tell me what I owe you. By the way.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll
milkweed,
look up
yeah.
which ones work better for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I'll try them with you there. I'll do a little experiment here, and we'll plant them in the fall, and I'll bring more butterflies too.
Cool.
Well, I'm gonna
cool.
look up milkweed in Zone 4 then and check it out.
Yeah,
It's
and buy 'em
like
some
it's
bags.
not. Yeah, check out the site. I've got a map on there because it's not even like zones. It's like there's the West, the Arizona is its own zone, like
Yeah.
Texas is its own zone, and then there's like the Northeast and the Southeast.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's so, but yeah, it's one of those. At any rate, yeah. I mean, sorry, I'm splitting hairs here.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's just more broad, more simple, actually.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just so much different from like anything else I've sold before, and really that grown. You know, other than like onions, because they've got the short day, the intermediate day, and the long day. That one's very important to your where you live. But otherwise, it's just we're weird that we grow in the winter when other people grow in the summer. But you know, not a lot of weird plants otherwise.
I don't think it's weird. I mean, you guys probably start in what, late winter then, when it's starting to warm up just a little bit?
No, we're getting our garden ready now.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start earlier this year too, this coming year, because I started so late. Because you know how other people are like, well, the first frost might still or the last frost might still happen. Like the forecast for the next 2 weeks is like, warmer than you're saying. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do it. Because I've been just paying too much attention to what other people do instead of just trying it and seeing it.
Okay, try it and see it, but listen to me. Okay.
Small waves.
So we planted. In the spring. I'm like a little fucking child. I'm like, let's plant the garden. Let's plant. Is it time yet? Is it time yet? So like here it says the last frost is April 15th, and they're lying bastards. It's not. We've planted several times, and we're like, oh, it's April 16th. We're planting, and we plant all of our. We plant 2 different crops in the spring. We do an early crop, which is, the cold crop. And then we do a warm weather crop, which is
same.
Yes. So we do the warm weather crop. They say for that is the last frost date is April 15th. But we did that 2 years in a row. And it was beautiful weather right up until Mother's Day. And we got this random cold snap on Mother's Day and we get a frost. And I am out there and we have big gardens. And I'm out there with every tarp and sheet we own, trying to cover up all these plants that I just planted like 3 or 4 weeks ago that I would have to replant all over again because the frost would kill them.
Oh, bummer.
So you're rolling the dice.
The opposite situation here, Zach. I'll tell you. When here in Minnesota, the danger of first frost danger of last frost is May 15th to the 16th around here, depending on the year. Mm-hmm. And our last frost, our first frost was just like a week ago. So we're already down in the 50s, going to be in the 40s pretty soon. And in April, the ground is still frozen here and the snow is still melting.
Yeah,
so
really short.
We have a very short spring. Spring and fall are practically non-existent. We got about a day of each of those here. And then it's fucking winter for 5.5 months and summer for 5.5 months. It's either blazing fucking hot or snowing over here. There is no really mild days in Minnesota. We got the worst of both worlds. And so when they say danger of last frost, May 15th, and my garden lady who's been doing a garden for 30 years says, you know what, look at the forecast, it's supposed to be 65 for the next 5 days. Bam, the day I planted, May 9th, it was 90 degrees the next fucking day, and I am not lying. And this has happened like 3 years in a row where in the middle of May it's already at almost 100 for like a day or 2 days or whatever. And so yeah, we get just as freaking hot and humid in Minnesota as we get cold.
Yeah, it was about the same up north where I'm from too. Yeah.
It's like the greenhouse effect is serious up here.
Yeah, just pay attention to the weather. I know I've gotten screwed planting too early because I get excited in the spring. I'm like, let's go. But then
I'm never early enough, and it's too hard to do it early because, like I say, the ground is still practically frozen until mid-May. So
how do you do a cold crop then?
So we start cold crops like at the end of the fall, depending on the crop. So, end of summer, depending on the crop. So like, if I want to get garlic next year, like in the late summer, early fall, I'll plant it now. The ground's not frozen yet. Ideally, you don't need a year, but it'll.
Oh, so you kind of have like one. So you do your.
We got like 140 growing days.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't have more.
We have like 2 cold crops here. Like I can start one cold crop in like February, March, and then that's just about done by the time, or then we overlap and plant like a warm weather crop in like May, and then we just planted like a month ago our like fall cold crop.
If there's no snow on the ground and the ground is diggable in late April before the danger of last frost, then yeah, I could probably do some broccoli rabe or something like that, or some spinach. But for the most part, we kind of just stick with the first the first spring crop planting, which is, that mid-May, and then the warm weather, we got all the way till like 4th of July to start the warm crops here.
Whoa, that's crazy.
But then come October, first week of October, it could be frosty out. So very short season here, very short.
I mean, we've had frost already here twice, I think. 2 frosts it killed the tomato plants. But
yeah, I cut my tomatoes down about 3 days before the frost came, and then we had snow yesterday, but it melted in about 5 hours.
Snow already. Okay, Jesus.
Yeah, it was the kind that falls in clumps and it's wet and it's like not even an inch.
And it melts by the afternoon, kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, so back to the wait, where were we?
We were just about to start guerrilla gardening, you said.
Oh. Sure. But yeah, so back to pollinators though. Like that's part of the reason. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of guerrilla gardening lately. And everybody, you should do that. If you want to do it, come see me. Or buy seeds from Dag. So that's part of the reason I've been planting a bunch of flowers and bulbs. Number one, because I have shit tons of bulbs. But number two, because the more flowers that are around, the better off I am, because it's going to create a healthy bee and butterfly and bird population, which is good for my gardens also. So I've been planting a lot of food, but I've also been planting like a ton of bulbs and flower seeds for that exact reason. One, because flowers look cool, right? But number two, just because it creates like a healthy ecosystem in my area. And the more bees and butterflies and birds that are around, the better my plants do. So everybody should do that all the time. And also, I think we talked about this plenty of times before, but if everybody did just a little bit of this, we could create enough food and also flowers that everything would look very nice, fix our ecosystem, and feed the entire planet. So again, go buy seeds from Dag, and go plant them somewhere. And you can also try and piss cops off with it. It'll be great.
I would also like to add that not only like planting stuff as far as guerrilla gardening goes, but also taking and stealing cuttings from plants that you see or seeds from plants in public areas.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
To make more.
We do a lot of that.
I'm a big fan of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Liberating them.
Yes.
So what do you guys think about there's a lot of like I think that's a cool idea. There's a lot of decorative type stuff around here, like at state buildings and crap like that. Like you could literally just like reach down from the sidewalk as you're walking down the street and grab something and nobody would ever even notice. But like as far as like landscaping and ornamental type stuff, like I don't know what I'm looking for. When you say cutting, you mean like a full leaf with a bloom on it, or what would I be able to pick and use?
You want part of you want to take a cut from a limb.
Okay.
So like a small branch, and you want to cut it near what they call a branch collar.
Node. Oh.
A branch collar is where 2 branches meet. There's a growth ring there. It might look, some people call it a crotch or a fork.
Got it.
So you cut it right there. You cut it at a downward angle, and then you stuff it in water. And you stuff it in water until you start to see little bumps on the side of it. And then that's, depending on the plant, it's different. But that's roots trying to grow out of that plant. Right. So you can use growth hormone, but for a lot of things, you really don't have to. You just, the water is enough.
Okay, cool. Well, I would just like reach down and grab something and then trim it when I get home properly.
You can do that too. But once you get those nodes, you stick it in soil, and it'll grow, hopefully grow roots. And this is not 100% success rate by any means. So don't be sad if it dies, because it sometimes happens.
Well, and some of these ornamental things probably get sprayed too. So that's a potential problem as well.
Yeah.
Well, if you can leave them in water longer and they will actually get roots. That's what I usually do. I usually wait till actually like see roots, and then I'll plant it in dirt. And I have pretty good success rate with doing cuttings that way.
Certain things you got to be real careful about them just starting to rot. But yes,
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, if leaves are falling in the water and the water's getting gross, I change the water.
Yeah, vegetable cuttings I've never had really a problem with. It was just like wildflowers or some sort of plant. Like that's the stuff I was really not sure about if there was a difference, My idea of guerrilla gardening is basically I've been scattering like wildflower seeds around different parts of the property
awesome.
and then just letting the guy that lives here know that I planted some wildflowers and like leave him the fuck alone,
There is that. Also, I think another thing I think Erica was making the point of, like, you can.
What? Who's that?
What?
Who? What?
Nothing.
So,
Just
shit.
a boomer brain fart. That's all it is.
Yeah. Ray. God damn it. No, like, okay, so what we do when we go snag stuff is you can find a lot of like medicinal and edible plants just growing on the side of the road here, and we sometimes will just go take cuttings off them, but also sometimes we'll just go dig them up and plant them somewhere where we want them to be, and or closer.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and you just acquire plants that way.
Yeah.
And that works awesome. But yes, if you want, you can usually when you go to people's flower beds or like at the certain buildings or whatever, it's all very like what I would call formal landscape designs or traditional landscape designs. So it's not always something that it's very rarely something that's going to be useful or edible, but it'll be, azaleas and rhododendrons and viburnum and nandina, which are nice plants, and you can definitely take those and make new plants or propagate new plants from the cuttings. But that wouldn't be what I would be after. You know what I mean?
Oh no, I was just thinking, hey, there's this literally landscape plants where I can reach them if I'm just walking on a sidewalk. Like I don't even have to climb fences, and they're on state property.
Yeah, grab them.
And if they're anything that could attract bees and butterflies, I just planted free flowers. Is all I was saying.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I used to really enjoy planting things in like the places you're talking about at like bank flower beds and like flower beds outside of the courthouse or the police station. I used to really enjoy planting things that didn't belong there.
Like food and weed and whatever else.
Yes. It's a great time. It's a little inside joke that only you know about. And hopefully it irritates somebody. So I really, and hopefully somebody else enjoys it, but hopefully it irritates a cop.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to irritate a contract gardener who's like a private company. That would kind of make me upset.
No, they'll probably be into it, but and
that would be great.
Be like, wow, that flower's really nice, but it'll probably irritate the people that are that own the place, like the government. So I enjoy all of those things simultaneously.
I wonder, because this is not a new concept, but it's something I know that you've brought up to us recently. But I wonder how many people that are like maintaining these are like, fucking sweet, dude. And they bring it home and they don't say anything. And then like eventually they're just kind of like, all right, this shit is invading my landscape and I'm doing for you guys,
So if you're dealing with like government buildings and banks and stuff like that, and not people's homes, chances are the landscaping company that is dealing with that is like a huge, like giant corporation. And the dude that is, or lady that is there doing the work is not the owner and does not give a shit and is happy to just bring that home and is also happy to just get hours. He doesn't care. They don't care how much work is there for them. You know what I'm saying?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the people dealing, I know this is the business I'm in. The people that are.
That's why I asked you, because you would be in the know.
Yeah. The chances of me getting like a contract for Bank of America to take care of their flower beds and their mowing is slim to none.
No. These are people that have like great big fields out in the middle of rural America, and they have greenhouse companies and shit like that, and they get hired to do these state buildings and whatever else.
Yes. Yeah. Huge corporations. Yeah. So the person that is there maintaining that property is not going to be annoyed by you planting flowers in there or weed or whatever the thing. They will probably enjoy it. And it's, if they have to stop and dig that out and take it home every single time, they're just getting more hours. So keep doing that. I would guarantee if I was working for another company, like a big giant corporation like that, and every time I showed up to this job, there was another flower growing there, and I had to dig it out because that was part of the contract, part of my job or whatever, and I had to take it, and I took it home every single time and got paid to do it. I would enjoy that every single time. That's what I get paid to do now. Like, people pay me to haul these things away. I'm like, you're going to do what now? Okay, I'm taking that one, and I'm taking that one, and I'm taking that. I'm getting paid to like take home like flowers and bulbs,
Food
and food plant. So I'm like, this is awesome. So no, it's not going to screw anybody over who doesn't have it coming. So that's probably fine. And
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like, since it's been the end of the season, growing season for me, I've been saving seeds and stuff, and just, this is my second garden, and I wanted to report that I actually grew shit this year as opposed to last year, which was like, wah, wah, wah. Like,
I saw that.
I can grow beans. I've always been able to grow beans, but a kindergartner can grow beans. And I was able to grow
beans.
Pardon me?
Nothing.
I didn't. So I was able to grow beans by the bushels, and I was able to grow a couple of eggplants. I think I positioned them in a bad place this year and just didn't care. And I actually grew like 5 pounds of tomatoes with my handful of plants, and
they look like nice tomatoes too.
Yeah, so my Freedom Cell folks and I got together in March, and we did our seedlings and everything, and some of the seedlings were actually inherited from another Freedom Cell member. So these are heirlooms that we've been passing around our group. And
nice.
This was the first year that they didn't return as well as we'd hoped. But also we had really inconsistent, and we had a super huge drought in the early season. And then the rest of the season was more balanced and less heat, hot or whatever. But yeah, I was able to actually grow tomatoes this year, and peppers. Of course, I can grow peppers all the time. So I'm really happy with my second garden, and it wasn't a complete failure.
Your eggplants. Did you harvest any? Did you get any that were harvestable?
Yeah, so I got a baby that I was afraid to eat, thinking it wasn't mature enough, but it tastes great.
Okay, cool.
And then I got about a pound eggplant. So these are the they're like a globe, but they're sectioned almost like a hot air balloon turned up upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of look like a sort of like a light bulb, but with sections on
it.
Lobed, yeah, very lobed.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were globe. So when I got these seeds, they were also heirlooms from a friend. And
globe.
What?
So I always had. Well, the reason I'm asking is I've always had like a dickens of a time getting the harvesting time just right on an eggplant. I feel like I always let them go too long, and I don't mean to. And I feel like I must be overthinking it. So if you have any tips, I'd love to hear them.
So my first year with eggplants, and I'm not even a huge fan of eggplants, but someone gave me a plant, and I said, okay, I'm going to do my best to grow this and see what I can get out of it, right? So the first year was a globe style, and it was called Amadeo or Amodio, and it was an Italian, and it was easy to tell when those were done because the seed company description said that they get to be 5.5 to 6 inches in diameter. So like bigger than a softball, but not too much bigger. And the way that you can tell is if it's too soft, it's overdone. Like if you can put your thumb into the bottom where it's the biggest and you can see an impression, pick that sucker and cook it up quick, because otherwise it's going to be rotting inside in a couple of days. And the other way you could tell is if it's perfect, then it's shiny enough to where you can see your reflection, but it's also kind of almost matted, because it's super shiny when they first come out of the thing. It's like a mirror, right? No matter the kind you get, but especially if the darker variety. And so I found that if you can find that sweet spot between, too firm and too soft, and it feels like it might be heavier than it should be for its size, then you're good. But I had one on my counter for a week, and I cut it open, and only one part of the seeds were gross, and I threw it away. But the rest of it was able to be eaten. So if the seeds are dark inside, then you're kind of screwed. Or if there's like spaces in between the seeds, like air pockets, almost like, then you're gonna be like, well, no, I don't think I want to
A
eat
little
this.
gritty. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, it might make you sick because they are nightshade, and if they're funky, then that might upset your tummy. And I've
True.
actually made like baba ganoush. I've made quote unquote refried beans that are keto by cooking them with bacon and garlic and onions and pulverizing it in the food processor and spread it on
That
a
is so
carb
awesome.
tortilla. You wouldn't even know the difference. Add a little
Bacon.
cumin, paprika. And this time around with my harvest, I just sliced them and roasted them with garlic and olive oil and pepper and salt on a pan with some green tomatoes. And I made some little stacks, and I just kind of ate it with feta and basil.
I'll have to get into eggplant because, like, when we grew it, we'd get tons of it, but it's like I didn't even know what to like do with it. I've cooked it once or twice, and it's been okay.
That's a really
but I
good
can get
idea.
better.
It's an acquired
Yeah, I
taste,
love it.
isn't it? But like if you roast it with garlic and olive oil, I promise you don't have leftovers because that's gross. But if you want to impress a crowd at your next picnic or whatever, like roast it or even grill it with some little brush of olive oil and some garlic and
Mhm.
maybe a little rosemary if you like rosemary, but I would recommend just garlic and olive oil, and serve it with some either fresh mozzarella or some feta or drizzle of good olive oil and just salt and pepper. And
does
it's
sound
almost
good.
like
I'm
nutty.
getting really hungry.
It's almost like nutty and buttery instead of that almost weird minty taste that sometimes you get with eggplant. How it's kind of like almost burns your tongue if you're not careful. Probably not. Like if you've never had an
I've never
allergy,
eaten a fresh one. Yeah.
if you've never had fresh ones or like undercooked ones, there's almost that raw potato texture to it. But this just kind of turns it into like butter. And another thing you can do is you can slice them into strips with the skin on, and you can ferment them in a little vinegar and olive oil in a jar with whatever herbs you like, but they kind of say basil or oregano. And then like after 4 days, you got like basically pickled, marinated. And people like to put it on the side of like an antipasti tray or next to some salami or cheese.
That's it. I'm pickling eggplant next year. We're going. Pickle.
Yeah, I'll send
Yeah,
I'll send you the recipe. It's this Italian grandma that makes it, and it's like not complicated at all.
Yeah,
It's a good idea of plants I need to start growing. So I need to come up with like a list. Zach, by the way, I got those seeds that you sent me. Thank you very much. And
Awesome.
I a lot of them, all of them are from Dag and
Yeah, you can. Yeah, all yours were from Dag, except for did I send you bulbs?
I don't know. I haven't opened it yet, but let me see. Actually, we'll do a live unboxing.
Live unboxing.
Carefully.
But yeah, Dag gave me a box of seeds, so I've been handing them out.
Well, I don't
Oh, I
know.
was confused because when you took a picture and said I've got seeds, I thought it was just all you had was rosemary. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Why would I only have rosemary? Why did you think
Because
that?
this picture of the seeds that you had just said rosemary. I just assumed.
Score. I got eggplant right here. Yes.
There you go.
Good, because now,
There you
as
go,
of this
yeah.
podcast, I'd want to grow eggplant, but I couldn't think of anything at the time. You asked me, I was like, just throw whatever in there.
I just sent you a bunch of random stuff.
I don't.
So did I send you bulbs too? Or
I
no?
don't think so.
You would know.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it. Oh, loose seeds. Okay, doesn't feel like it.
Okay. I thought I did.
Broccoli.
You're not.
Beans. Let me feel in here. No. Basil.
Dag, did you see the seeds I sent somebody that you gave me? They're already getting planted.
I don't know.
I sent you a video, or I sent a video in the group chat. So I sent some to one of Shane Rayo's buddies, and they already went back to their place and were like planting them at abandoned buildings and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's already happening.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited for your eggplants this year, guys. And Penguin, if you want that, I have another recipe. If you do any canning, I have a recipe from one of the guys who gave me the eggplants years ago, or a couple years ago. Was it's a ratatouille, and you can it.
Okay, I think I want to try that baba ganoush. If you can send me that.
Yeah.
All right, let's
The
wrap
one
this
I was
up.
telling you
Good
guys
word.
about was the refried beans. But
On that note,
Gonna start simple.
I gotta go do things and sleep.
I gotta go eat at some point. I'm not really.
I know I've been talking about food.
I'm
I already
hungry
ate
now,
and I'm
too.
hungry again now. So.
sorry.
I got a burrito over here.
Dag, I'm gonna go back to your site because you added way more stuff there since what wasn't there when I was last there. So I'm gonna probably do some shopping later.
Yeah, check it out. I got the milkweed up there, and to be honest, I don't want to like deter people from going and like buying stuff, but I still have another probably dozen new things. I'm gonna work on it for a bit tomorrow. So by tomorrow evening, check it out, and there will be there'll be quite a few new things, and then I'm also refreshing my supplies of stuff that have been up there. So I'm getting fresh seeds in and everything too right now. So we got a bit going on over there, but yeah, by tomorrow I should have quite a few new items up for sure.
And what's that website called?
Agoristacres.com. I believe you have a promo code, right? What is it? Agora?
Do I? Oh shit! Yeah, we do. Agora.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think it's Agora. I'll double check that, but yeah, I think it's Agora.
We're very
And then,
organized.
yeah, anybody who types that in will get 10% off, and then your show will get some money too. So it'll help support the show and get some seeds, and orders over $20 are free shipping currently. So
Sweet.
Sweet.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Everybody plug stuff. Dag, plug all the rest of your stuff, and then go around and everybody else plug their stuff.
Sure, got the seeds, and then you can find me over at Gorse Nexus as well. I'm one of the co-hosts of the podcast, which we have started getting going again, and is coming out very nicely. And we're working on a bunch of other cool stuff over there. I'm hopefully going to be doing some light homesteading video content soon with them as well. So, look for that, but it's not there yet, so I'm not going to brag about it too much.
And
Nice.
you're the number one Agorist podcast, and I'm shaking my
Allegedly.
fist right now. Yeah.
But that's just because the Let's Make Some Shit podcast might not have been properly categorized as an agorism podcast.
Ooh, that's probably
Wow.
true. Yeah, you're probably not
if that
an
was the
agorist.
case,
Sexist
the-
and
the-
racist.
the podcast hosted by myself and Sex Lady, the Let's Make Some Shit podcast. I'll go ahead and plug that right now as the number one agorist podcast out right now.
Nice.
So check it out. And then I also make herbal medicine and do custom portraits, and you can find my stuff on Etsy at The Willow's Gift. Or you can hit me up on The Willow's Gift at protonmail.com. And yeah, that's it.
BJ.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm BJ. You can find me at Keto BJ on Twitter, or kind of on hiatus on Twitter. It's kind of annoying, but you can also find me on Telegram. I have a channel there that is called ketolish.us. And you can also find me on Telegram itself. My username there is Beegerino. It's like Beej, get it? Areno? Just to be funny. So BEJEREENO. And if you like keto recipes and you like jerky that isn't made with a shitload of sugar and other crap, you can get my jerky at mailboxmeat.com. And if you check out the rest of the website, you scroll around, aside from the jerky, you'll find all my keto recipes and tips and tricks for a low carb lifestyle, radically reclaiming your health with real food. Nice alliteration.
It's good jerky too, dude.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's-
it is.
Thanks,
I really like
guys.
it. I really like it. Hey, do you guys want to give out your social media? Ray and Dag.
I'm at Daggerist on pretty much everything.
And I am at E_agorist on Twitter.
Awesome. All right, thanks guys for joining us. This was fun. And a
Yeah,
wide
this was
variety
great.
of topics. So that was good.
100% confirmed.
All right, you guys have a good night.
Heck yeah, you too.
Always a
Peace.
blast.
Peace.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.